We've got to remember that this is not a binding deal. This is not a treaty. This is not binding on Iran. This is not binding on the United States. It's not even an executive legislative agreement. And these gentlemen here aren't even asking for Congress to approve the deal. I think they'd appreciate it if we didn't pass a formal resolution of disapproval. It might be at most morally binding on this administration. But I want to focus on, Secretary Kerry, on your remarks that we've got to focus about dealing with Iran's non-nuclear behavior. And you say we'll be in a stronger position to deal with that, and we have to deal with it. They're holding 4 American hostages. Assad is killing 5,000 people a month, at least, and the blood is on the hands of men in Tehran. And they're supporting Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthi, and those are just the organizations that begin with the letter H. Now, I'm not asking you whether you think new sanctions are a good idea, bad idea, whether Europe will follow, whether they won't follow. I'm only going to focus on what's legal under this agreement. You were asked about this in the Senate, and you said we will not violate the agreement if we use our authorities to impose sanctions on Iran for terrorism, human rights, missiles, or other non-nuclear reasons. But you then also noted that there is this comment in provision in paragraph 26 that commits the United States to refrain from reintroducing or reimposing the sanctions specified in Annex 2, which of course are the very best sanctions we've got. You were also asked if we reimpose sanctions on the Central Bank of Iran to deter terrorism, would that violate the agreement? And you said no. But I'd like you to clarify. Is Congress and the United States free under this agreement to adopt new sanctions legislation that will remain in force as long as Iran holds our hostages and supports Assad?
We're free to adopt additional sanctions as long as they're not a phony excuse for just taking the whole pot of the past ones and putting them back. We can put them in place. Let me let Jeff.
So they need, Secretary Kerry, it's my time, and I've got a lot of other questions.
Not sure what
now, we've got a number of entities listed on the, for their nuclear activities that deserve to be listed for their terrorist activities. It's just you haven't had time to put them on that second list. Will you be putting entities who are on the list of sanctions for their terrorist activity, for their nuclear activity on the terrorist list if they deserve it? And can you get that job done before this agreement becomes effective?
Well, we have terrorism sanctions in place right now.
But we've got to list additional entities.
We're free to add, and we have added, by the way.
And we're free to add those who...
We added some 60 entities during the course of these negotiations.
Let me get to one other question. Okay. You strongly do not want us to override a presidential veto. But if we do, that triggers certain American laws. I'd like to give you an opportunity, you don't know us to do it, you think it's terrible policy, you think the rest of the world would be against us. But let's say Congress doesn't take your advice. We override a veto. And the law that's triggered then imposes certain sanctions. Will you follow the law even though you think it violates this agreement clearly, and even if you think it's absolutely terrible policy?
I can't begin to answer that at this point without consulting with the President and determining what the circumstances are.
So you're not committed to following the law if you think it's a bad law?
No, I said I'm not going to deal with a hypothetical, that's all.